Welcome back. Today we are going over A Course in Miracles, Chapter 1, Section 4, titled The Escape from Darkness. The escape from darkness involves two stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step usually entails fear, which, if you think about it, makes sense because I think most, if not all of us, are trying to hide our darkness. We would rather not have our darkness be seen. So of course it would entail some fear when you learn that darkness cannot hide. There's nothing that you can hide. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This step brings escape from fear. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. Holiness can never be really hidden in darkness, but you can deceive yourself about it. So if you remember in the last section, it was talking about the golden rule and how you should look out from the perception of your own holiness to the holiness of others. So that's the only way to actually live the golden rule, to actually treat other people the way you want to be treated and should be treated. So this is saying in paragraph 2 of section 4, holiness can never be really hidden in darkness, but you can deceive yourself about it. So you can perceive yourself as unholy, even though you are holy. And that can never truly be hidden, but you can deceive yourself. This deception makes you fearful because you realize in your heart it is a deception, and you exert enormous efforts to establish its reality. If you remember in a previous section, it talked about how truth doesn't need to be defended because nothing can harm it. So it's only untruths that we have to fight to defend. And so this is one of those things. This deception, pretending like you are not holy, makes you fearful because you realize in your heart it is a deception, and you exert enormous efforts to establish its reality. If it actually was real, you wouldn't have to work that hard. But it's not real. So it causes a lot of fear and takes a lot of effort. The miracle sets reality where it belongs. Reality belongs only to spirit, and the miracle acknowledges only truth. So again, this idea that we often, if not always, identify with the body, and that the body is who we are. And this is saying reality belongs only to spirit. So only our spirit is true reality. Not that our bodies aren't real, but not eternal, not eternally real, I think is what it's saying here. So reality belongs only to spirit, and the miracle acknowledges only truth. It thus dispels illusions about yourself and puts you in communion with yourself and God. It dispels illusions about yourself. The miracle joins in the atonement by placing the mind in the service of the Holy Spirit. This establishes the proper function of the mind and corrects its errors, which are merely lacks of love. So all the errors of your mind, or mirrors of your mind, I don't know, all the errors of your mind are merely lacks of love. And so that's why miracles are so powerful, right? Because miracles are expressions of love. That's why they're so healing and correcting. Your mind can be possessed by illusions, but spirit is eternally free. Spirit is eternally free. But your mind can be possessed by illusions. So while you're identifying with the body and not with the spirit, it's totally possible to think that your spirit is unholy, or to believe that you're somehow lacking or unclean or whatever. But your spirit is eternally free. Again, you cannot change what God created. And if He created you perfect and whole, there's nothing you can do to change that. But you can have illusions. You can deceive yourself about that. and believe with your mind that that's not true. If a mind perceives without love, it perceives an empty shell and is unaware of the spirit within. But the atonement restores spirit to its proper place. The mind that serves spirit is invulnerable. The mind that serves spirit is invulnerable. And it'll go more into invulnerability. Maybe I've said this before. It'll go more into invulnerability in future chapters and sections. And it was a concept that I really struggled with personally, because I don't know that I've ever felt completely invulnerable ever in my life. Felt like, oh, there's nothing in the world that can hurt me. Nothing can hurt me. Does anyone believe that? There's probably someone. I would love to meet them if that's the case and truly believe it. Like, I think logically we can go, okay, nothing can hurt me, but we still feel like things can hurt us, and it still causes fear. So, anyway, but we won't tackle that this time because it goes more into it later. So, paragraph 3, darkness is lack of light, as sin is lack of love. It has no unique properties of its own. So, darkness has no properties of its own. It's simply a lack of light. There's no taste to it. There's no feel to it. I mean, there's feelings maybe we associate with it. Maybe we associate darkness with fear, the boogeyman, or a heaviness, or, things like that. But technically, darkness has no defining qualities other than it's a lack of light. And it's saying sin is the same way. It has no unique properties of its own. It is simply a lack of love. So once you introduce light into darkness, the darkness just disappears. It ceases to exist. And it's the same with sin. As soon as you introduce love, sin is gone. It no longer exists. Isn't that a fascinating idea? So this darkness and sin, it is an example of the scarcity belief from which only error can proceed. So again, if darkness is lack of light and sin is lack of love, they are an example of the scarcity belief, of just a sense of lack in general. Truth is always abundant. Those who perceive and acknowledge that they have everything have no needs of any kind. The purpose of the atonement is to restore everything to you, or rather, to restore it to your awareness. You were given everything when you were created, just as everyone was. Is that not a beautiful thought? I love this one so much. The purpose of the atonement is to restore everything to you, or rather to restore it to your awareness. You were given everything when you were created, just as everyone was. There is no lack. There is no lack. Paragraph 4, the emptiness engendered by fear must be replaced by forgiveness. That is what the Bible means by there is no death, and why I could demonstrate that death does not exist. So this one kind of twisted my mind for a little bit, but I had a thought. And you can tell me if you interpret this a different way or have a different perspective on this, because I'm sure there's more than one. The emptiness engendered by fear must be replaced by forgiveness. And then the example it gives of that is what the Bible means by there is no death, and why I could demonstrate that death does not exist. So what does death have to do with emptiness and fear, was my question. There's the fear of dying, like your body, right? Leaving your body and being done with this life. But I know a lot of people who don't really fear death, don't fear dying. They believe that there's something beyond this that's even better. And so, it may be a sad day for our loved ones when that time comes, but there's not anything inherently scary in leaving this life. Do you fear the death of the spirit? Do you fear spiritual death? That is something that I was raised with. The concept I was raised with is spiritual death. And that is far worse than physical death, because physical death, you know, that's not a big deal. But spiritual death, that is something to be feared. That is something to protect yourself from. That is something to be vigilant against. And I all of a sudden remembered earlier in A Course in Miracles, Chapter 1, Section 1, Paragraph 24. Miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself and can therefore abolish both. You are a miracle, capable of creating in the likeness of your Creator. You are an expression of love. Like God made you by expressing love. You are an expression of His love. Anyway, miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself and can therefore abolish both. So then when it's saying here, the emptiness engendered by fear must be replaced by forgiveness. That is what the Bible means by there is no death. And I think it's because, I think my theory at this point in time is that we created death, right? And sickness. Here it says that spirit is eternally free. So even spiritual death is not a possibility. We created that idea that we can be lost spiritually. And so we must forgive ourselves. The emptiness engendered by fear must be replaced by forgiveness. We need to forgive ourselves for even entertaining these thoughts that somehow we could be lost, that somehow we could change what God has created. And that is what the Bible means by there is no death. Not physical death, not spiritual death. I mean, physical death in the sense, but that's such a temporary thing. You know what I mean? And why Christ could demonstrate that death does not exist. Interesting, right? I came to fulfill the law by reinterpreting it. The law itself, if properly understood, offers only protection. There's nothing in the law, sorry, this is just me now, not quoting, not reading. There is nothing in the law, according to this, there is nothing in the law that threatens you, that you should be afraid of, that you should be like, oh no, I'm doomed. The law itself, if properly understood, offers only protection. It is those who have not yet changed their minds. And remember earlier in this section, it said you have to put your mind in the service of spirit. That's what your mind should be doing. It is those who have not yet changed their minds who brought the hellfire concept into it. And we've all heard the hellfire concept, right? I don't think there's anyone out there that's like, oh, what do you mean the hellfire concept? I've never heard of that. It is those who have not yet changed their minds who brought the hellfire concept into it. I assure you that I will witness for anyone who lets me, and to whatever extent he permits it. Your witnessing demonstrates your belief and thus strengthens it. Those who witness for me are expressing through their miracles that they have abandoned the belief in deprivation in favor of the abundance they have learned belongs to them. One more time, is that okay? They have abandoned the belief in deprivation in favor of the abundance they have learned belongs to them. And guess what? That's the end of that section. So it's a short but powerful one. I would love if you would put in the comments either something you learned or if you have a different perspective or a different take on what I shared. I would love that too. And I hope to see you next time.